Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this Friday. We got a ton to talk about today. We got some NFL. We got some college football. Obviously, the game of the week. You can argue, at this point we are right now, maybe the game of the college football season. My Tennessee Volunteers going to Athens, Georgia to take on the Bulldogs. More on that game in about 20 to 25 minutes on the Vol View, my favorite segment that I do every week relating to the orange and white, big orange and white. Also, with the game we saw last night, Philadelphia, Washington, two major takeaways I had from that game. One in particular on the Commanders in my second segment, in the sense that, man, I'm starting to see a trend with this team, or really two, that is growing really, really troublesome. Getting to that in about 10 minutes or so. And at the end of today's show, favorite thing I like to do every single week during the football season, NFL picks. It's week 11, ladies and gentlemen. Off to 1-0 start. I did pick the Eagles and to cover the 3.5. Listen, I'll just say this in advance. I love the dogs this week. I love the underdogs this week in the National Football League. Excited to give you all my picks and win y'all some money on If I Were a Bettin Man, as well as Bryce's Bleak Bet and my upset of the week, which, to be honest, I looked at it. I didn't think it was that big of an upset. Evidently, Vegas feels differently. That's why it is. Stay tuned for that at the end of today's show. But first, I'm watching that game last night. Philadelphia and Washington. The Eagles win 26-18. And the whole time, I'm like, okay. I was just, and I kind of admitted this last week or earlier this week, but I can full-blown say it now. That was wrong on the Eagles. I was wrong on the Eagles in the sense that I thought they, in a stacked NFC, or at least what I perceived to be that they would miss the playoffs. I actually had, yikes, I had the Bears in the playoffs in the last spot over Philadelphia, who I as the first team out. A bad miss on my part. I was wrong about the Eagles' defense in the sense that I thought it was virtually unfixable. Well, Vic Fangio's pretty much fixed Philadelphia's defense. They've been great, especially throughout the course of this 6-game winning streak. They've been fantastic, getting the quarterback, forcing turnovers, the whole bit. Here's what I'm right on, though. And here's what I'm right in terms of watching this team all season long throughout the course of the 6-game winning streak is they are winning. It's not necessarily an indictment on the players, certainly not on the players. I'm watching this team week in and week out and saying they are winning pretty much on talent alone. Saquon Barkley's been unbelievable. Saquon Barkley, this game, 26 carries for $146, 2 touchdowns. By the way, 2 in a span of like a couple seconds, it felt like, in the span of this game that really kind of helped turn the game in Philly's favor for good late in the second half. But I'm watching Jalen Hurts, who's cut out the turnovers. Kudos to him. That was something that I got on Jalen Hurts the last season and a quarter coming into this year was, bro, you got to cut down these turnovers. He almost won an MVP 2 years ago, in large part because he wasn't turning the football over. So Jalen's been good. I still don't love Jalen on some of these intermediate routes, right? Can he be able to perfect that in his game? Maybe, maybe not. But the deep ball's still there. A.J. Brown is still awesome. Devontae Smith, the best number 2 receiver in the National Football League. I've said that for some time, even though he have a huge impact in this game, still a very productive player. And Saquon Barkley, we know. And even without Jason Kelsey, Eagles' offensive line is unbelievable. But situationally, how do I feel about this team? Well, I don't feel great because I don't trust the head coach. Now, I had a prediction mid-season that Nick Sirianni would lose his job at some point during the season. Unless Philadelphia has a funk like they had at the end of last year where they just fall apart physically, or not even physically, but just psychologically, they don't look engaged and they lose all these games in a row. Unless that happens, which I don't anticipate it'll be to that extent that we saw a year ago, Sirianni's going to finish the year. But again, I'll say now what I said a year ago. In a coaching market that is as deep as this one's going to be, Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, among others. Yeah, Philly with that roster. I mean, you see the talent's obvious. You see it all over the field. Probably need to upgrade from a guy, Nick Sirianni, who apparently Eagles fans believe the reason their season turned around, some, not many, is the reason this is the fact that this guy shaved his head. He's not a terribly serious individual. Red zone. End of the first half. I mean, this is just brutal. They get the ball down. What was this play? Okay, they get the ball down, Philadelphia does, to the Washington 9, first down and goal. Saquon Barkley touches the ball one time in that stretch. First and goal from the 9, 38 seconds left. Saquon Barkley gets one touch. How does that happen? He's the best player in your office. He's the best player in your team. Get that man the football. And that goes to Kellen Moore as well. And so, listen, Philadelphia is a great football team. There's no question about it. After many weeks of resistance, finally this week on Wednesday, I put them in Bryce's best 10. I think this is you know what? What Philadelphia is to me is what folks thought the Jets were. Like they were a great, talented roster that would overcome coaching. No, the Jets aren't talented and they're not well coached. That's why the Jets have been a mess this year. Philadelphia's not that. Jalen Hurts deep ball, great. Can Jalen Hurts move? Yes. Is Saquon Barkley? Can we? It feels like it's a two-man race. We'll see what Christian McCaffrey does. I'm willing to still give somewhat the benefit of the doubt to Christian McCaffrey to be able to kind of be able to still be effective. He just came back from injury, but it's a Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley race right now. Right now, I think Saquon certainly the hotter running back and has the edge. And so it's an indictment on the Giants for somehow, some way finding a way to let this man go. But watching this Eagles team, it's like, God, their talent just pops off the screen. And I still don't trust them. I don't know. It's not necessarily a Jalen problem. It's darn sure not a Saquon problem, a defense problem. None of those things. But if the Eagles lose a game down the stretch that costs them playoff seeding, if and when they go on to lose a playoff game to a Detroit, to a team like that, to a Los Angeles, maybe let's say the Rams upset them in Philadelphia, won't be shocked. If you told me, hey, Sirianni, bad fourth down call, I'd been like, yeah, that's kind of what he does. So again, I don't want to use this as an opportunity to hate on Philly. I think I'm mostly just truth-telling in the sense that, against a Washington pass defense that has been god-awful all season long and hasn't had ability to stop the run, Philly scored 3 points in the first half. Now, kudos to their defense for being able to keep them in it throughout. Finally, they say, hey, maybe we should give the ball to Saquon Barkley and Saquon Barkley only, and he finishes the deal in basically two minutes. But listen, I think it's kudos to Philadelphia for getting the W. I thought they would. I thought they'd cover. But this is kudos to Howie Roseman as well for putting this roster together. This is a talent thing, not a coaching thing in any way, shape, or form. So that's kind of my take on the Philadelphia Eagles side of it. On the Washington side of it, so obviously Commanders are having a season much better than expected. And by the way, too, anybody thinking, panicking, oh my God, Washington's lost 2 games in a row, they could miss the playoffs. They're not missing the playoffs. You look at Washington's schedule moving forward. They host Dallas, that's a win. They host Tennessee, should be a win. Go to New Orleans, we'll see, that should be a win as well. And then they finish at Dallas. Now you got some games against Philly, Atlanta. Those are tough ones, but worst case scenario, the Commanders should win 10 games this year. And I think they will. That should be enough to get them as the 6 or 7 seed in the NFC. But I'm seeing a troubling trend right now with Washington on 2 fronts. One's not that concerning, moving forward. For this season it is. Moving forward, I don't think it is. It's the simple fact that Washington doesn't beat good teams. They just don't. You look at what the Commanders' schedule this year. You look at their wins. Commanders' wins come against the Giants. Bengals was relatively impressive, but the Bengals do have a losing record. Cardinals, that's a very impressive win. Beyond that, Browns, Panthers, Bears, Giants, that's where it goes. Meanwhile, Washington's losses come to Tampa. Tampa's, Baker's a gamer. Okay, Baltimore, lost to Pittsburgh. Like good teams, some of those Super Bowl contenders, I believe, in the Ravens and in the Steelers. And so that's for this season. That's concerning moving forward. Washington's a young organization; they're gonna be able to rebound from that moving forward. The more concerning trend to me is Jayden Daniels. It's not that he's playing poorly necessarily; it's how he's playing to begin with. So since he suffered that rib injury, which he suffered against in that game early against Carolina, Mariota came in, did his job. Jayden comes in the next week, and then obviously the next game he completes the miracle Hail Mary to beat the Chicago Bears, throws for 300 yards, and plays pretty well in that game. And it still, I think, looks to be, although if you look at his numbers compared to Caleb Williams' last 5 games, one, everybody wants benched. The other guy I think is the shoo-in for Rookie of the Year. Listen, the stats say what the stats say. Since that rib injury, Jayden isn't running. Jayden had averaged about 52 rushing yards per game prior to the injury. 27 after. So you're seeing a clear regression and a clear, I think in the case of Jayden, if you see what the film says, kind of a hesitancy. That rib is bothering him. It's like, okay, I'm not going to take any risk that I don't necessarily have to put myself and my team in position to where I go down again and it screws up our season. Nothing against Marcus Mariota, but he simply does not give you the upside that Jayden Daniels gives you. This was a concern by a lot of draft scouts coming in for this particular player. Listen, there were 3 quarterbacks in this past draft that I loved, that I bought almost completely all the way into. Loved Caleb, still do. Loved Michael Penix Jr. We haven't seen anything from him yet. Love what he's going to bring to the table. And I love Jayden Daniels. Liked Bo Nix if he got the right coaching. Drake May, I felt was kind of the boom or bust. Right now, it's been pretty good. Let's see what we see moving forward. Did not buy J.J. McCarthy at all. He hasn't played yet. We'll see. But this is what draft scouts worried about. Is a quarterback who does not even weigh 200 pounds, who is a little skinny, somewhat slight for a guy playing that position, who does run a lot, who brings the athleticism to the table. We saw what this kid did when he won the Heisman Trophy a year ago. Special with the ball in his hands, running or passing. There's a lot of comparisons to Lamar Jackson for that reason. And by the way, he's got a better arm than Lamar Jackson does, and Lamar can sling it. But is the success of the Washington Commanders organization, if it's predicated on this guy staying healthy, is that sustainable? That's kind of the thing you got to worry about if you're this franchise. And folks can point to Cliff Kingsbury's had many second half collapses as a head coach / OC. There's no doubt about that. And that's something you might want to be worried about if you're a Washington fan. But I like Dan Quinn. He's a culture builder. We saw what he did with Atlanta. Second year, took him to the Super Bowl. Was great in Dallas as their defensive coordinator. You see what the Dallas defense is from there. The new ownership group. Washington's got a lot of great things to look forward to in the future. But it's almost all predicated on, can this guy stay healthy and deliver us great things? Now, when he is healthy, Jayden Daniels is capable of doing that. We've seen that. But it just takes that one hit. Hits that Mahomes doesn't take. Lamar and Josh Allen, because they're just bigger athletes, but can sustain. I mean, that's something I remember something that was so fascinating about a player that was shorter than Jayden Daniels, but kind of more bulked up than Jayden Daniels, Russell Wilson. Remember Russell Wilson back in the day in Seattle? He used to be this escape artist and whatever. People like, how is he making these plays happen? Can I tell you the one thing that always stood out about Russell Wilson? It's changed a little bit as he's gotten older and less elusive. I can't name that many times that I watched Russell play with the Seahawks and be like, boy, he just took a big shot. Russell didn't take that many hits. He was a baseball player, so he knew when to slide. Again, he was elusive, so he could get out of the grasp of, but be able to get in and out of the pocket and make magician-like plays. Russell Wilson did not take a lot of hits out there. And so I don't know if that's something, maybe Jayden Daniels should contact Russ. Again, Jayden's taller than Russ, so seeing of the offensive line is a problem. Like, he won't deal with the issues that Russell dealt with necessarily. But that was, again, for Russell, I was always like, how does he not take that many hits being that size? Heck, Drew Brees didn't take that many hits, and he was a pocket guy relative to what you would expect a guy of his size would take. So that's something that you got to worry about if you're a Commanders fan moving forward is Jayden Daniels going to be aggressive the rest of the season running the football, because that's such an integral part of his prowess, of what makes defensive coordinators nervous about playing him. That's, curious to see how Washington addresses that moving forward. I'm sure this is going to prompt them to really go all in on this offensive line in the next few drafts, free agency, trade deadline, or not trade deadline, but the trade market in the offseason. But so that he doesn't have to run for his life as much like Russell did in Seattle. So gonna be curious to see how Washington addresses this, but good win for Philadelphia, a win that came almost completely predicated off of a talent advantage as opposed to a coaching one. Because if these two had, if the playing field was level, if this was Detroit, Philadelphia, Detroit wins all day long. The coaching gap is huge in that matchup, but Philadelphia is going to beat a lot of teams who do have better coaches just because they have better players. It's that simple. I mean, Philadelphia has guys that would start in some of the best teams in the league. Like Saquon Barkley would start for the Detroit Lions, right? Like he's a special player. And by the way, do an MVP race, because I think we all generally agree Lamar's in the lead. Watch out for Saquon Barkley. Like the way he's playing lately, really since that Giants homecoming game, since Saquon's been great all season long, but since the Giants, homecoming for him, and you heard the Eagles fan, you heard the Eagles fans after the game, thank you, Giants. It's like the poverty franchise and the New York Giants just continues to make really poor decisions. It'll always go down in NYJ or MYG history. You paid the guy who threw 15 touchdowns as opposed to the guy who is the reason you guys even really got to the playoffs, if we're being honest, that year in 2022. So, bad days in the Meadowlands for both franchises, to put it mildly. All right, take a quick break, but we'll be back in a minute with as big of a segment of the Vol View as we've done all season long. Listen, we introduced this segment at the start of the 2023 college football season, talking about my Tennessee Vols. It's the 1 10 to 12 minute opportunity I get to really just sink my teeth into my favorite college football team, my lifelong team. I bleed orange and white, baby. This is as big a game as Tennessee's played in my lifetime, and certainly the existence of the Vol View. So we'll get to that in just a minute on Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. We're just getting started here, baby. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So we do a segment every Friday in the middle of the show. It's called the Vol View. So basically what I do is whatever is going on in the world of Tennessee football during the college football season, their next game, I talk about it. I dive deep into it. And boy, this ain't the biggest game in Tennessee season. This is one of the biggest games of the college football season, and certainly a do-or-die spot potentially for both schools, the Tennessee Volunteers, the Georgia Bulldogs. So very excited to get into that. So without further ado, let's go. The Vol View starts right now. And of course, as always, it's football time in Tennessee, baby.
You're darn right. It's football time in Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
It is indeed football time in Tennessee. Apologize for the bad hair, man. That's what a hat will do to you prior to you getting a haircut. But listen, this is a massive game, obviously, for the Tennessee Vols against the Georgia Bulldogs. It's an opportunity for Tennessee to put themselves in position to get to Atlanta, to play a second game in the state of Georgia in the span of basically a month, get to the SEC title game, and pretty much seal your ticket to this year's 12-team college football playoffs. So Tennessee comes to Athens, Georgia, where they have not won since 2016. The last win in 2016 came via a Hail Mary, the Dobb-nail boot, as we call it, in Knoxville, Tennessee. Joshua Dobbs and Juwan Jennings, ironically now teammates with the San Francisco 49ers. That was one of my all-time favorite memories as a Tennessee Vols fan. In that game, by the way, Georgia scored with 10 seconds left. I swear to God, I literally take my hat off and chuck it across the room as we're watching the game. By the end of the game, I'm like on my knees, like, what just happened? So shout out to Joshua Dobbs and Juwan Jennings for making an all-time great Tennessee moment. But that's the last time we did it, 8 years ago. Can we do it again? in Athens, by the way. So, listen, these are two squads that are actually quite similar in the sense that their defenses are unbelievable. Now, Georgia had a bad day at the office last week. A lot of that was due to some turnover problems from Carson Beck. More on him in just a second. But Georgia's defense is unbelievable. Tennessee's defense, though, even better. If you look what the Vols' defense has done this season, they've been nothing short of fantastic. Tennessee ranks first in the SEC in the following categories: total yards allowed, third down defense, red zone defense, fourth down defense, and scoring defense. They're by far the best defense in the SEC, arguably the best defense in college football. They have not given up 20 points all season long. No team has scored 20 on the Tennessee Vols in the 2024 college football season. And so can Georgia be the first? Well, that's where we get into the particulars of the weaknesses, because that's kind of where Tennessee and Georgia have their lumps. If you look at Tennessee, it is, can they develop, or can they be able to generate a consistent, deep passing game? Either Nico Iamaleava will overthrow somebody, or they'll drop his perfectly thrown dime, drop right in the breadbasket. It'll just go right through their gloves. Speaking of Nico, by the way, there's concern all throughout this week. Is he going to play? Is he going to be able to go in this matchup against Georgia? It's not 100% confirmed. It's not 100% denied in any way. But for those that don't know, last week against Mississippi State in Tennessee's win over the Bulldogs, Nico suffered a concussion in that game. He's been in concussion protocol all this week. Josh Heupel has said, hey, he's practiced. Our plan is for him to be able to go on Saturday. Chris Lowe, I think, reported that Nico is going to play, that he's expected to play. He got on the bus today to go to Athens, Georgia. So it looks like he's going to be ready to go. So Nico should be able to play. If he's not, if Gaston Moore, the backup, is in, sorry, Gaston, sorry to his family. I'm not feeling terribly confident. Neither should Georgia fans. That's Carson Beck is bad, like really bad. This is expect about 2 to 3 turnovers a game by Carson Beck in big spots, be it Alabama, be it Texas, be it Ole Miss. The 3 biggest games for Georgia, Beck's going to turn the ball over a lot. Okay, his deep ball isn't good. He doesn't see the field terribly well. Listen, this Georgia team clearly isn't as talented on the offensive side as it was a year ago, without Brock Bowers, without Ladd McConkey. And by the way, this week, no Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne out for this game, so that hurts their running game. Their offensive line for Georgia has really struggled. And by the way, Ole Miss worked that offensive line last week. You know what Ole Miss does not have? James Pierce, Tennessee's premier pass rusher, the best pass rusher in the Southeastern Conference. So you might be thinking, that seems to favor Tennessee. Well, in the words of Lee Corso, potentially not so fast. If there's one thing, I actually was talking to my co-host about this on the Triple Option. Shout out to Addison and to Asher, both fantastic. Both do a fantastic job on our Monday and Friday radio show, the Triple Option. Asher made a really good point when we were talking about this game. He said, listen, it's kind of a do or die for both teams. Like Tennessee's in a rough spot. I should say rough spot. They're not an ideal spot with their second loss. Coming into the final 2 weeks of the season, 10-2 doesn't guarantee you a spot even in the 12-team college football playoff. For Georgia, though, they're done. If they lose, they're the 12th ranked team currently in the country. They lose another game, they're in really, really dire straits. They need a lot of things to go right for them in order to sneak in the playoff as like the 11 seed. Asher made a really good point this morning on the radio. He said, you know what, Bryson? This is Kirby Smart with his back against the wall. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at Nico. This is going to be a game. This is going to be a low-scoring game. And the over-under for Tennessee, Georgia is 47.5. Bet the under on that one. First team to 20 wins in this spot. First team that gets to 20 points wins in this matchup between two great defenses and offenses that have their struggles. And so, excuse me, sorry about the voice crack. And so, with all those things being considered, with the fact that Nico is not 100%, not even guaranteed to play, although it looks like he probably will. Georgia dealing with their problems with their offensive line and their quarterback, but their defense is fantastic in their own right. In Athens, Kirby Smart, who's only lost one time in his entire career, and that was the first time he played Tennessee on the aforementioned Hail Mary. It's a do-or-die opportunity. And this is a Tennessee Vols team that's looking to do some big things. And in doing so, in order to do big things, conquer big teams. And that's what Tennessee will do, ladies and gentlemen. Give me the Vols in a low-scoring affair, 20-17 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Yes, they do cover. Listen, even if Tennessee doesn't win, 9.5. You're talking. I get 9 points for Tennessee. Really, you gonna spot me that Tennessee plus 9.5. That line went out as high about 24 hours ago. It was like 10.5. Give me the Vols plus 9.5 and to win this puppy outright, 20-17 over the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee gets to 9-1. They're going to put themselves in position. They win their last 2 games over 2 easy opponents, UTEP and Vanderbilt. Get to 11-1, get to Atlanta, and get to the college football playoff for the first time in program history. Meanwhile, Georgia will be in a bad spot, put themselves in a position where they can miss the playoff entirely. Forget about the SEC title game. That's gone. They could miss the playoff out entirely. So, like Tennessee in the spot, again, it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a nail-biter. It's going to come down to the last 2 minutes. But again, the matchups just favor Tennessee. James Pierce against that struggling Georgia offensive line. Carson Beck against the best defense in the conference. Yeah, give me the big orange and white. Listen, Josh Heupel kind of set the tone before the season. I certainly came in thinking, hey, Nico, Heisman contender, which I was writing Dylan Sampson, but all these weapons, here we go. It's 2022 all over again. And Josh Heupel, maybe he saw what was on the horizon because he is the head coach of the team after all. He said after that game against NC State all the way back in week 2, he said, all the great teams have been predicated, all the great Tennessee teams have been predicated off of great defenses. All the Tennessee defensive legends, guys like Derek Barnett, Eric Berry, Al Wilson, and the minister of defense himself, Reggie White. So, defense, once again, will get the job done. Someone once said, was it defense wins championships? I think that was what they said. Defense wins championships. Yeah, I think that was somewhere in that ballpark. Georgia, 2 of the last 3 national championships, they have won them. And Tennessee will, in effect, end their national title hopes in 2024. Vols 20, put that score up again. Vols 20, Dogs 17. Tennessee wins, plus, take them plus 9.5 anyway, even if you don't think the Vols are going to win. Take Tennessee plus 9.5, man. Vegas is just giving you the free money right there on that spot. Tennessee 20, Georgia 17. The Vols put themselves in prime positioning to get to Atlanta to their first SEC title game since I was 4 years old, back in 2007. So, a spirited edition of the Vol View. It's going to be a blast tomorrow night in Athens. College game day is going to be there. It's going to be a whole thing. I don't know. Is Luke Bryan the guest picker again? It feels like every time they go to shout out Luke Bryan. I actually love the guy, but it feels like every time they go to Athens, Luke Bryan's the guest picker. Nonetheless, very excited for this game tomorrow. Vols 20, Dogs 17. That's it for this week's edition of the Vol View.
You're darn right. It's football time in Tennessee.
in Tennessee.
Man, oh man, is it ever. I'll tell you what, this is as big as it gets. Like, not even just for the Vols or for Georgia, for college football in general, this will really make a big time impact on the college football playoff picture. There's no question about that. So, quickly before we get to NFL predictions, because I'm sure folks out there that know I'm obviously a big Boston Red Sox fan. Folks have been might be wondering, hey, what do you think about the Juan Soto news? Because according, I think it was John Heyman, who's obviously a respected baseball person. No, it was actually Sean McAdam who reported this, that Juan Soto was impressed by the Red Sox after a 3-hour presentation. This is Soto, this is according to Bleacher Report, Soto was impressed by Boston's presentation, which covered future plans, top prospects, and more. So, listen, here's what I know. Would I like to have Juan Soto in Boston? No, I wouldn't. I'd love to have Juan Soto in Boston. He's one of the 5 best players in baseball. Heck yeah, I'd want him there. The problem is I've been duped many times. And under this current front office and ownership, an ownership group that used to be big on spending and now all of a sudden just got cheap quickly. I've been duped many times. I was heartbroken. Still kind of am to a degree that we traded my favorite player on the team, Mookie Betts, and one of the best players in the sport and a future member of Cooperstown for a bag of Cheetos and Diet Coke on the side. It's hurt. They've hurt me over the years. And so I'm not going to get my hopes up. If we get Juan Soto, I'm going to be over the moon. But if I remember one thing about the Red Sox offseason last year and the year before that and the year before that, they are the kings of being interested. Anytime a high-profile free agent is on the market and they met with all these teams, it'll always say, Red Sox are reportedly interested. Yes, and I am interested in buying a Maserati. Doesn't mean I can. Like, it's... I'm not gonna let them do this to me again. I'm not. Listen, I don't want to sound like I'm a long tortured fan. I've witnessed this team win a championship, and they've won multiple in my lifetime. So I'm not gonna say poor little old me, Red Sox fan who hasn't seen a championship in 6 years, right? It's like it's been an eternity. I'm not gonna let them do this to me. That's all I'm gonna say. Juan, we'd sure love to have you. We really would. Nonetheless, let's talk about the NFL. We're going into week 11 of the NFL season, and it has been a crazy last few weeks in the NFL, especially these early window games have been as good, if not better, than some of like the big Fox or CBS 425, 430 game, and then obviously the Sunday night games. But we have some interesting ones this week. I know I sound like a broken record every week, but I honest to God mean this. I'm as confident in my picks as ever this week. And folks, I am feeling right now. Listen, I might not be feeling the dogs, as in the Bulldogs with the Georgia Bulldogs against my Tennessee Vols this weekend. But in terms of my picks, I am feeling the dogs, the guys that are the teams that are, underdogs this spot. So let's go and get into week 11 NFL predictions. Here we go. So let's start with as Draymond Green would say, let's start with a quickie here. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. I don't even want to spend a whole lot of time in this. Jacksonville has one of the worst quarterbacks known to man. His name is Mac Jones. He's been bad since he stepped in the NFL. I don't think he was that good in college. He just had great players around him. But going to Detroit, playing the second best team in the National Football League, a team that's on a 7-game winning streak, and a team that's going to win the NFC this year. That would, of course, be the Lions, who are favored by more points than any team has ever been favored by this season. They are 14-point favorites at home against Jacksonville. Dan Campbell, what I love about him so much is he never lets his players take a day off, or in the sense, mentally take a day off, mentally take a Sunday off. They take a team like Jacksonville as seriously as they take a Green Bay Packers, as seriously as they take a Houston Texans. So this can be an absolute wipeout. Give me the Lions, 56-13. I think it's going to be an absolute annihilation. This is what Detroit does to teams. So Lions, obviously minus 14. And if they were favored by 30, I'd take Detroit. This is going to be an utter beatdown. Detroit Lions 56, Jacksonville Jaguars 13. It's going to be a monsoon. The game's indoors, but it's going to be a monsoon on Jacksonville. They're from Florida, so they know what a monsoon would look like. All right, it is now time. It is now time for Bryson's Bleak Bet. It's the one game every week that I have absolutely zero confidence in predicting. But hey, you got to predict them all. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams and the New England Patriots. So the line is, well, it's uncomfortable. It's Rams minus 4.5. And you guys know I have won and I have lost betting. Again, that's why the segment's called If I Were a Bet Man. I don't bet. But I've lost a lot of real estate, so to speak, betting on the Los Angeles Rams. I've gained some as well, so it's kind of been a wash. So they're going to New England in a spot where the Rams are on a short week, traveling across the country to a New England Patriots team that isn't as bad as we thought they'd be. I didn't think Drake May would play this early, but he's played. He's turned the ball over. But he's also looked pretty good. He's got a very live arm. He can move. Like, this is quick take here. I wish the Bears would coach Caleb Williams the way the Patriots are coaching Drake May. Just let him rip it. Just let him. He'll throw interceptions. It happens. Peyton Manning threw 28. I think it was 28 interceptions his rookie year. Like, guys are going to screw up in their rookie year. Don't baby the quarterback and handhold them when they've got this type of superstar ability. They're probably not going to be superstars as rookies. Most aren't. And so, but I like what I've seen from Drake May. This Patriots defense has really kind of gotten it going, looking like some of those old Belichick defenses in the past. Jerome Mayo's done a good job with the squad. Rams minus 4.5 is uncomfortable. Listen, they're obviously more talented in New England. I'll bite my tongue, and I guess I'll take the Rams minus the 4.5. I've got the winning by 5, so that in itself tells you how confident I am in this pick. Rams minus 4.5, I guess. Again, it's not the Rams aren't better. It's not that on a neutral field I wouldn't take the Rams by 10 points or more. It's the fact that this is a team that just played Monday Night Football and is flying across the country from Los Angeles or from Inglewood to Foxborough. That's not ideal for me. That's not ideal. But I'll still take the Rams. May sound oxymoronic what I just said, but I'll take them in this spot. My man Jeff's in the comments. He asks, or am I officially done with the Rams? I am absolutely not done with the Rams. I stuck by them even throughout their losing streak when they were missing all their guys. NFC West is still wide open. It's still wide open. They can still take it from the Cardinals or the Niners, or it's not going to be Seattle. They can still take it from the Cardinals or Niners. I'm not selling stock on the Rams. I still believe in McVay and Stafford and some of the pieces. And Puka Nacua, I expect him to be a real X factor in this game. Cleveland Browns, New Orleans Saints. This was almost Bryce's bleak bet, but then I thought about this more. So the Browns are a point favorite on the road, so it's almost a virtual pick 'em. Again, I've said over and over in this show, like the interim head coach is the substitute teacher of football, because everybody loosens up. People aren't as uptight as when the regular everyday teacher's in the room. The substitute comes in. They may, remember when you were in elementary school and the substitute teacher wouldn't really, teach anything. They'd like play like a game or something. Like it's fun, right? It's a fun day at school. Well, that's kind of the interim head coaches in the NFL. And so that's how I feel right now with the Saints. I know it goes against my rule of great coaches, which I believe, what's his name? With the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski. He's a really, really smart coach. Jameis Winston's quarterback. Now, Jameis Winston is this generation's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not that he switches teams all the time, because he hasn't played for close to the amount of teams Fitzpatrick did, but Jameis will give you a real gem, and then he'll do something. He'll go, what the heck? What the heck was Jameis doing right here? New Orleans has a defense that did just lose Marshawn Lattimore. We know they've been dealing with injuries all season long. They're an old team. They should have broken this team up a long time ago, started the rebuild. This is bad upper management on their part by Mickey Loomis. Nonetheless, substitute teacher feel. I'll take the Saints in the spot, 23-19. I'll take the Saints +1. Again, basically a pick 'em. Again, interim head coaches, they can fool you. A lot of teams, ask the Las Vegas Raiders, how this turned out, hire their interim head coach as their full-time guy, and more times than not, it just doesn't work. So give me the Saints of a spot, 23-19. It is now time for my upset of the week. I didn't think this was that hard. Give me the Indianapolis Colts over the New York Jets, 17-13. Yes, a low-scoring affair. Colts +4, and to win this thing outright, 17-13. And here is why. This is going to be one of the worst quarterback duels of the season. On one hand, in Indianapolis, you have a guy who in many cases, fails to complete half his passes. And on the other side, the guy completes about 6 out of every 10, but he doesn't throw deep balls. He can't move. His teammates don't like him. Half the time, I'm not sure he likes his teammates. The coaching staff's a disaster. The offensive line's beat up. Tyron Smith is out. I don't understand how a team can be 3-7, can lose 6 of its previous 7 football games, and be over a field goal favorite at home. I don't understand. So, listen, I'd feel much more confident if Joe Flacco was in. Kind of revenge game type of feel, all that type of situation. Listen, Shane Steichen's a smart coach. This is what I'm banking on. He'll use Anthony Richardson's legs. Anthony Richardson, if nothing else, in the last 2 weeks, he's got fresh legs this week in Week 11 against the Jets defense, one that has really struggled. So you say 17 points. I'm not terribly confident Anthony Richardson put up a lot of points as is, other than like one deep ball a game, and that might be what all it needs. This is the Jets offense that is anemic, that is stagnant. There's a bad O-line, bad quarterback, bad basically everywhere other than Garrett Wilson. Even Devontae Adams with this guy throwing him passes looks somewhat washed. So once again, upset of the week. Give me the Colts over the Jets, 17-13. Colts over the Jets, 17-13, and take Indianapolis plus 4 points, obviously. Moving on to Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans. I gotta admit, this was almost one of my if I were a Bettin Man games because Minnesota's a 6.5 point favorite on the road. There's a part of me that kind of thinks that Tennessee could upset them. That obviously didn't pick Tennessee as my upset of the week. But I like the Titans a lot, plus 6.5, because, listen, Tennessee they're one of the more underrated defenses in the NFL. They don't give up a lot of big plays. Minnesota, Sam Darnold, I kept saying, what did I say every time I made my predictions? Even when I picked the Vikings to win, it's like I'm waiting for Sam Darnold to turn back into Sam Darnold and like clockwork against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, fortunately, it was against the Mac Jones-led Jacksonville Jaguars, so it didn't cost him. Sam Darnold's bad against the Jags defense that has struggled all season long. So the old Sam Darnold appears to be back, and Tennessee's defense is a defense that could give them problems. Although that said, Will Levis is the quarterback, so he's probably going to do something really, really stupid in this game. Whatever mistakes Sam Darnold makes will be immediately canceled out by Will Levis throwing it right back to the Vikings defense. Give me the Vikings in the spot, but 6.5 is too many points. On the road against a good Tennessee defense with a Sam Darnold who's come back down to earth. Vikings 20, Titans 17. If Tennessee upsets them, I won't be shocked. But yeah, definitely 6.5 is too many points. If it were more like 3, 4, I'd understand that. But no, 6.5 is too many. Give me the Titans plus 6.5, but the Vikings to win this game out. Right, Las Vegas Raiders, Miami Dolphins from South Beach. The Dolphins are 7-point favorites at home. I like Miami in the spot. This is a game where, listen, the Raiders are coming off a bye. Again, great coaches off of byes tend to fare well, but Antonio Pierce is, of course, not a great coach. The Raiders, aside from Max Crosby and Brock Bowers, by the way, are virtually devoid of any talent whatsoever. Is it Gardner Minshew? I guess so. Aiden O'Connell's hurt. Okay. The Dolphins defense actually recently has been playing better as of late. Tua, it's another game at home, get himself back in a rhythm. He wasn't great against the Rams, wasn't awful. Tyreek Hill's dealing with injury. I saw Tyreek's got a wrist injury. He's dealing with all kinds of, he's really banged up. So I could expect this to be like a big time, game where they kind of run the football, grind out the game, break out some big plays against the Raiders defense that isn't that good. Give me the Dolphins in the spot pretty comfortably, 31-14 over the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't buy Las Vegas, in the spot. I just don't. All right. Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears. So Green Bay's a 5-point favorite in Chicago. And normally games like this, divisional games, it's like, yeah, if it's around 5, you tend to take the dog in the spot. Here's what I'm thinking. We can talk about how the Chicago Bears fired Shane Waldron. And Shane Waldron didn't do a good job. Many other problems still exist. It's the same playbook. Might get a different play caller. Playbook's still the same uncreative mess that the Bears are working with all season long. Eberflus is still the same coach, and Eberflus versus Matt LaFleur off a bye. I think I'm going to go LaFleur in that spot. This is a Bears defense that has completely given up on its head coach. It's Caleb Williams who's running for his life. In some cases, hurt himself with some self-imposed sacks. The Bears receivers, DJ Moore. There was one play where Caleb's scrambling. DJ Moore goes to the darn sidelines. Chicago's kind of in a free fall, and we know. Green Bay Packers kind of own the Chicago Bears. So this is probably later than usual. But my favorite segment of the week.
Bettin Man.
If I were a Bettin Man, Green Bay -5 is the side. There's no question about this. Packers -5, 27-13 over the Chicago Bears. I don't see a spot. Well, if Chicago upsets them, kudos. Caleb probably went off. But at the same time, I just don't. The vibes are as bad as any team in the NFL is what they are in Chicago. Dallas is worse, but man, the Bears have given up on their head coach. Eberflus has lost the locker room, fired their OC. O-line's a mess. It's a disaster with the Bears right now. This is not the playoff team that I thought it would be coming into the season. So Packers win 27-13. If I were a Bettin Man, take Green Bay -5. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my favorite. I don't bet, but I'm saying this in jest. This is easily my favorite bet of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Is now time once again for
Bettin Man.
once a time again. We play it.
Bettin Man.
Okay, not as in sync as I thought it'd be. Nonetheless, Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers. Boy, does that bring up some. It's like my joints hurt thinking about that. I don't even play football. My joints hurt just thinking about those two words in sequence, knowing the physical pain that many have endured in this rivalry. The Baltimore Ravens are 3-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh. A Steelers team that is 7-2, won 4 in a row, and now as an offense with one of the best defenses of football is a 3-point dog at home. Here's what I know about the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson's special. Lamar Jackson is one of the 3 best quarterbacks on planet Earth. There's no question about that. Here's what I also know about Lamar. He's not very good against the Steelers, like at all. He's 1-3 in his career, completes about 59% of his passes, and has a passer rating in the 70s. He's not good against the Steelers. Here's what I also know. The Ravens defense, pass defense, bottom 10 in basically every category you can think of. Red zone, third down, yards per game, given all these major stats. Baltimore's defense is awful. Listen, Mike McDonald, we knew he was the best defensive coordinator in football last season. I didn't know he was this good. I didn't know it was the difference between being the best defensive football last year into being, oh, wait a second, they can't stop anything against any quarterback or receiver known to man. How does that bode well for the Steelers? Well, it's exactly how it bodes well. Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson, has been doing his thing. The deep ball's working with George Pickens. The deep ball worked with Mr. Redline, we want to call him that moving forward, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams. The deep ball worked to Mike Williams to win the game against the Washington Commanders. Najee Harris has been great. Jaylen Warren, despite a fourth quarter fumble that pissed me and every Steelers fan off imaginable. Jaylen, just gotta keep the ball in here, man. Don't fumble inside the 5-yard line, man. It could cost us a game at some point. Nonetheless, if there's 3 things that I know in life, folks, are absolutely certain. Death, taxes, and Mike Tomlin winning you money when he's a home underdog. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers, ladies and gentlemen. In a higher scoring than usual Steelers-Ravens affair, in the sense that the Steelers have an offense finally, and the Ravens defense is terrible. Even though Lamar will still do his thing. I think the Ravens will still score plenty of points in this game, 24, but Steelers 28, Ravens 24. Give me the Steelers +3. This is easily my favorite, if I were a Bettin Man, game of the season. Steelers 28, Ravens 24. Pittsburgh moves and improves to 8-2 and gets a game and a half up in the AFC North. Move on to the Atlanta Falcons and the Denver Broncos. Again, almost if I were a Bettin Man game. Atlanta, interestingly enough, a 2-point underdog in Denver. So I really like the Falcons this spot, and I'll tell you why. The way Denver lost. Not that they lost, it's the way they lost. They felt like they had that game intact. Oh my God, we're going to go on the road to our rival, the Chiefs. We're going to upset them in their house. We're going to give them their first loss since Christmas. And they blocked our field goal. And you could just see the demoralized feel on the Broncos sideline and Sean Payton and everybody. It was devastating for that entire group. Could have been a massive, not only culture win, but really big building block. And Sean Payton's a great coach, but I could very easily see this being a spot. It's a young team. I could see this being a spot where the Chiefs beat them twice. And what I mean by that is they actually do literally beat them in a game, and the psychological effect of that leads them into a loss against the Atlanta Falcons. By the way, Atlanta's coming off a game where they probably shouldn't have lost against the Saints. They were bad situationally in the fourth quarter. Atlanta's not feeling good about themselves. By the way, I think I saw a stat. Kirk Cousins has not gone back-to-back games ever in his career without throwing a touchdown pass. So he threw no touchdown passes against the Saints. I imagine he'll throw at least one and make sure he keeps that streak going against the Broncos. I like Atlanta in the spot. Relatively close game, 25-21 against the Broncos. Falcons +2, and the money line. Atlanta 25, Denver 21, Falcons 25, Denver 21, and Atlanta will get the job done. In this one, Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers from the area. Niners, 6.5-point favorites. So Seattle's coming off a bye. Just talked about Mike McDonald earlier in that matchup, Ravens-Steelers. So, look, great coaches off buys. I don't know if Mike McDonald's a great coach or not. I don't know if he's just being held back or held down by Geno Smith, who I've never been crazy high on throughout the course of his time in Seattle. With that said, I said last week the Niners' win over Tampa Bay was one of the least impressive wins. I said the least impressive win this season and one of the least impressive wins I've seen in the NFL in a while. With that said, they own Seattle. I mean, they literally own the Seattle Seahawks in every way, shape, or form. Psychologically, physically, talent-wise, coaching, the whole bit. Feel great about this. Give me the Niners in this spot. Again, I said they were 3-4 going that game against Dallas. I said the Niners are like, and I kept them in Bryce's best 10 despite having a lose record. I said they're about to go on a little bit of a run here. That's going to continue. They're going to win their third straight game. They do cover. 6.5 may feel like a lot for a divisional game and for a team coming off a bye week. Not for me. Niners 28, Seattle Seahawks 16, San Francisco take them -6.5. And obviously to get the job done, 28-16, Niners get to 6-4. It is now time for my final game for my favorite segment of Carving It Up.
Bettin Man.
If I were a bet man, game of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills from Orchard Park, New York. The Bills are 2-point favorites against the Chiefs. So this is so fascinating because many of the key players for both squads are out. So on Kansas City's side, no Isaiah Pacheco. Looks like he could potentially come back this week. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to go. Even more importantly, folks, Harrison Butker, they just put on IR. Arguably the best kicker in the NFL, certainly the best clutch kicker in the NFL, gone for Kansas City for at least the next 4 weeks, which is a huge, huge loss to their special teams group that is arguably the best in the NFL. Devastating loss for the Chiefs. On the side of the Bills, though, Dalton Kincaid is definitively out. Amari Cooper could be out once again. So both teams are missing some key, let's call them fantasy guys, in terms of Pacheco and Butker, and then the other side for the Buffalo Bills in Kincaid and Amari Cooper. Look, I'll say this. If there's any game that the Chiefs are most likely to lose, other than obviously on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it is on the road against the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is playing exceptionally, a little bit down game last week, but it was really good with his legs. I think is a win away in this spot. If the Bills win this game and Josh Allen is great, which I think is gonna have to be in order for them to win, they're gonna have to really rely on him with his legs to get the job done on Sunday. Josh Allen's in the MVP discussion, bar none, because I think Lamar Jackson is gonna lose to my Steelers on Sunday. I just have to keep repeating this over and over. People don't believe me. People think it's cheesy, it's corny, it's nonsense, but gosh darn it, it's true. They're gonna find a way to beat you. They're just it's like the monster you can't kill, you can't run away from. It's your impending doom. The monster's gonna get you. If the offense is down, the defense picks them up. If the defense is down, the offense picks them up. If both down, the special teams picks them up. Now, without no Harrison Butker, that's going to hurt them, but they can block a kick to save their undefeated season against their division rival Denver Broncos. Here's what I know, is that the Chiefs, I don't know how they're going to win. I just know that they're going to win because that's just what they do. Again, as I said all season long, people get mad at me for putting a 9-0 team as the best team in the NFL. Not only a 9-0 team, but a 9-0 team that's the back-to-back defending champions, won 15 games in a row, the best quarterback, best coach, best defensive coordinator. I don't know. Call me crazy. I love the Bills this season. Don't get me wrong. But come on, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs +2 and to win this thing outright. 24-20. Again, it's classic Bills-Chiefs game. By the way, Kansas City, fun fact, has not beaten the Bills in the regular season since 2020. They've lost 3 games in a row to the Bills. But obviously they're 3-0 against Buffalo in the postseason. I almost, in a weird way, think a loss would almost take a little bit of heat off of Buffalo in the sense that, oh, okay, the Chiefs are 9-0. They're undefeated. Now they're 10-0. Like, we're not necessarily expecting you to beat them in the playoffs like we had in years past when they had beaten the Chiefs and then fallen short. And then there's a certain level of disappointment, obviously, from their fans, from the media, and otherwise. So, listen, I think this is a good spot for the Chiefs to get the job done. Close game. Listen, I'm going to say this right now. Patrick Mahomes leads the game-winning drive with about 4 or 5 minutes to go. And the Chiefs defense gets a stop on Josh Allen, the Bills, and that's how the Chiefs win the game. Finally, Sunday Night Football, Bengals and Chargers. Went back and forth on this one, folks. The Chargers at home are a 1.5 favorites. Of course, I say Chargers at home. It's the stadium they play in the most. Is there that much of a home field advantage? For them or the Rams, but certainly for the Chargers, as I often joke, they're 13 fans. Remember years ago, I know it was for like a movie promotion thing, but they had like AI fans in the stands. That was It's kind of odd, but nonetheless, Chargers are 1.5 favorite at home. So here's what we know about Cincinnati. It's not do or die because that race for the 7 seed in the AFC is crowded with the Broncos, the Colts, with the Bengals. Like, it's really jumbled in there. So a loss isn't fatal for Cincinnati. It does put them in a really rough spot when you look at their schedule moving forward. But for the Chargers, they're in a little bit of an interesting spot in the sense that you need to prove to us it's a little bit of Washington Commander syndrome, although the difference is, hey, Herbert is 5 years in now. You got Jim Harbaugh, who's been to a Super Bowl. You got veteran players like Bosa and Khalil Mack, who's quietly been amazing this season, second highest graded defender on Pro Football Focus to my man TJ Watt. So kudos to Khalil Mack. I think this is going to be an interesting spot for the Chargers. Can they prove they can beat a good team? Because if you look at the Chargers, if we could pull this up, who the Chargers have beaten this season. Raiders, Panthers, Broncos is a solid win. Saints, Browns, Titans. And their losses come to the Steelers, who are better than them. The Chiefs, who are better than them. The Cardinals, I don't think are better than them, but they just outgutted a 17-15 win at home on a Monday Night Football game. So for Los Angeles, it's going to be a matter of being able to establish the run game, which has been really good, and the Bengals have struggled to stop the run. I don't think it's going to be necessarily – Herbert's played well as of late, but I don't think it's going to be a Justin Herbert 350-yard, 4-touchdown game in order for them to get the job done. I think this is going to be a big-time, a domination situation from the LA Chargers running game. Joe Burrow's going to do his thing. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, a lot of points. Give me the Chargers in this spot, though. 34-31. They do cover, obviously, the 1.5 favorability there. Again, a loss is not fatal to the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-7, given what we're looking at in the playoff standings for that 7 seed in the AFC. But boy, does it get a lot less likely that this team picks up late and makes the playoffs. I've loved the Chargers all season long, all off season long, all regular season long. I think they win this game by a final score of 34-31 in this game. Listen, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase is going to continue to do their thing. The question is, will everybody else? And I've been given no reason to believe that that's going to all of a sudden change against a team that I believe to be really good in the LA Chargers. I'll tell you, this is going to be a really fun football weekend with college, the NFL. Looks like Jeff's got a couple of comments here. Because Jeff's a Niners fan. He says, I really think this is where Brock Purdy has another great game and continues to own the Hawks. Oh, he's never lost the Hawks, so I imagine he does. Seahawks center Connor Williams just retired. Their O-line is really horrible and missing multiple starters. But that's smelling bad news for them facing number 97 Nick Bosa on the other side of that field. So that could be rough for him. Jeff, I totally disagree. I think Herbert is going to have an incredible game against the Bengals, and this is where his MVP conversation comes up. Again, I'm not saying what I'm saying by that, Jeff, is I'm not saying he can't play well or isn't going to play well. It's that I think Jim Harbaugh is going to try and really rely on that running game to set up the pass. Again, it sounds like I'm talking about Justin Herbert in a game manager context. I'm not. I'm saying that's what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. Now I think Justin Herbert gets hot late. I think this is the fourth quarter. I think the majority of his important stats are going to come in the last 15 minutes. I think it's going to be kind of a duel between him and Joe Burrow at the end because the Bengals are going to be throwing constantly from start to finish. I can see a spot where the Chargers are up 13 points with, coming in the fourth quarter. Bengals come back, end up taking a lead or something, and then Herbert leads a game-winning drive, and then the defense gets a stop. But a lot of points in that game for sure. There's no question about it. With that said, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday, a lively Monday. Hopefully it's a happy one with the Tennessee win over the Georgia Bulldogs. Can we pull up that score one final time? Tennessee 20, Georgia 17, Vols essentially eliminate the Georgia Bulldogs from college football playoff contention. Again, assuming that there's not absolute chaos ahead of Georgia in the playoff standings. But Tennessee, in essence, kind of locks their spot, assuming they can beat Vanderbilt. Alabama wasn't able to do that. To beat Vanderbilt and get to the SEC title game with an 11-1 record because they have UTEP the week before Vanderbilt, who they'll obviously take care of. But season-defining game for the Vols. I think we get the job done. Low-scoring affair, great defenses. A bad quarterback on one side, a concussed quarterback on the other. Not many points in this spot, but go Vols nonetheless. But we'll be back Monday on Carving Up Live, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. Helps the channel grow exponentially. And obviously, we are our next benchmark goal. The next thing we are trying to accomplish is getting to 5,000 subscribers. So please tell your friends about it, your family about it, everybody you know about Carving Up Live, except for your sleeping cat. Nealon is starting to, it's getting more and more chilly. Finally, I swear, it was like on election day, wasn't it like darn near 80 degrees? It's like, I didn't know they held election day in May. I was like, what the heck is happening? It's finally starting to feel like fall. Here I'm at in Tennessee, and so my little furry friend Nealon is starting to grow his winter coat for the year. So yeah, definitely be preparing for the elements to come in Tennessee. Nonetheless, just as importantly as subscribing to Carving Up Live, please be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. You can find us at the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. All right, see you guys on Monday. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that affects every single one of us on a day-to-day basis in this country. And no matter what anybody tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem, or oh, there's only one solution to the problem, both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of nuanced solutions to solve it. Again, we just had an election. The people have spoken as to who their future leaders will be. Let's make sure we hold them accountable, especially to getting laws and legislation passed to address this, because God Almighty, we have got to protect the people in this country from the gun violence epidemic. There's no question about it. There's no one solution. There's a number. We've got to hold our lawmakers accountable and make sure they get to the table and get these things passed for the goodwill and safety of this country and its people. All right. I'm nervous for Tennessee, Georgia. I'm not going to sit up here and be confident like, oh, we got this in the bag. This is Georgia we're talking about. This is Kirby Smart. But I do think Tennessee will win. I think they have too many matchup advantages, particularly James Pierce against that Georgia offensive line. I think he could have a couple sacks in this game. Hey, Carson Beck's going to turn the ball over. I do know that too. All right. We will see you guys on Monday. Stay safe out there. Stay safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all. Peace out. Hopefully we play Rocky Top on Monday. That's the goal. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.